right. This is episode 4 of the Round Circle with your host, the Fifth General.
And Zaccheus.
And Cinemascapes.
All right. So, for everybody that didn't have an episode last week, we had to kind of push things back, and also we had July 4th, time. So, but we're back to regularly scheduled programming. Episodes will be up every Monday on YouTube and on your Mac. Episodes coming soon to SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. All right, pretty soon. All right, so we last talked about the loss of Prodigy. Sorry. So here's what happened recently. We've had a Prodigy painting, a mural, out there in kind of the vicinity of Queensbridge or whatever, kind of in that area of Queens. Yeah. And I don't know the exact street right now, but it's been vandalized twice in 1 week. By the time this episode airs, by the time this episode is uploaded, it'll probably be old news by then. I get it, but we can't not talk about this, being that we just talked about Prodigy in our last episode. Okay, so we feel that that's important. So first, it got vandalized by white paint all over it, and across the street, you can see that you have the actual can left. Okay, so then they came and tried to clean the side of the building, and still save the integrity of the painting. Then, the following, I think the next day, it gets vandalized with red paint. At that point, it's damaged the integrity of the painting. So today, as in July 11th, this is being taped. I saw a video of it being painted over.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Because at this point, it got to be moved.
Yeah, Billboard has reported officially on their site as of now, 7/11/2017 article, Prodigy's mural removed after repeated acts of vandalism.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for providing that info, because that's something that is an issue. Let's talk about other hip-hop murals we have seen. A lot of these happen when a lot of our artists pass, but then you have some that happen before while the artist is living. So right here on Staten Island, the Wu-Tang Clan, Can It All Be So Simple,
that was moved,
mural that's been painted over because the building's been bought by somebody else.
Right.
So at one point, one half of it was painted over.
Yes.
And then I think the rest of it is now painted over. Because it was long. It was like
It was the length of the building. It was
Right.
on the side of the store in Tarjee, about where my old church used to be. And so I saw it for years. It was up for years and years. And then I come back, half of it was painted because the front of the store was painted, but they didn't paint the back. But then now it's gone.
Right. And that mural was a dedication too, because it said to our fallen soldiers, and it mentioned 2 Cent.
Yeah.
And then you saw Can It All Be So Simple, Wu-Tang Clan, and you see the double.
That was the video that they did, right? They did a video there, Ghostface and Raekwon. So
right,
simple.
they filmed it
right there.
Yeah.
I remember, back in the days, in the
On
early
Sobel
90s,
on Sobel Court.
Yeah.
And there's actually no houses addressed on Sobel Court, but that's what that street is, Sobel Court.
Right. That for those who've heard our album, the song 212, the cover album, the cover art for that was that actual street, and then the street name was there. I just can't think of it off the top of my head, but that's something that I want to mention real quick, kind of a shameless plug. But anyway, so we have Big Pun's mural in the Bronx.
Yes.
That's still intact.
Yeah.
ODB's, I think that got removed, if I'm not mistaken, or it's about to be removed.
Yeah.
Well, because here's the thing. We don't own... Okay. Well, let's put it like this. A lot of these murals are painting on these bodegas, and whoever who owns them had to give some type of license or some
them,
permission to paint that on there. If the store owner now changes, it's their property now. They get to do whatever they want.
It's true. It's true.
You know, there was a Biggie mural. I think that's gone because the person who bought the building.
Right.
You know, so I guess the point I'm trying to make is we need a hip hop museum that is owned by people within that culture. Let's just keep it real.
Let's keep it real. Yeah. Yes.
So that this could be up, and then we could look at it whenever we want. You know what I'm saying? Some type of museum, some type of, you know, because it's art, it's hip hop because it's graffiti, but to see some of this stuff go away, things that we in hip hop we call them monuments. You know what I'm saying?
To us it means something, but to see business people coming out of different places. I mean, people coming from overseas to some people, it doesn't mean anything to them. All they see is, it's a graffiti ghetto stuff. We got to move it off our building. To us, it means something to us.
But I would say, and I'm gonna let you come in on this, Cinema. I would say that to respect to the business owners, it's theirs. If you own it, you could do whatever you want. That's why I preach and teach ownership, because if you owned it, then you could do whatever you want with it. If I owned the building right now, I would say, yo, go ahead and paint a montage. You know what I'm saying? Paint a montage. But because I own it. But if I don't own it, you know, I can't do nothing about it.
Yes.
So, and what's your opinion on this, Cinema?
Definitely, because there's so much art and so much thing. You know, even Marvel did the dedications with the hip hop recreation of iconic hip hop album covers.
Yeah.
And things of that nature.
That was fun. That was fun.
Marvel did that?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
And so,
wow.
You know, we have a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame museum. It's just time. It's been that many generations. And, you know, that way, people can remember where it came from, where it's going, how it's branched off. Because when you talk about hip hop, it's branched off into, like, you know, the trap. That's a branch off. All the, you know, how we could track jazz and what everything that branched off of jazz and became a genre of its own. So hip hop is in that place now where we can track the branch offs. And it's just getting too much to verbally communicate it, because now it's way more than it was.
I mean, I would love. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, it would be good if they put a museum hip hop Hall of Fame right here in New York, where it all started.
Yeah, to put a snag dab right in the Bronx.
In the Bronx, yeah, where it all started.
It got to survive though, because a lot of museums are closing down. A lot of museums that feature Black history are closing down. Not enough support. So it would have to be something that could stand the test of time financially.
Exactly.
New York is expensive. Maybe this may not be the place from a financial point to be here, but from a historical point, it belongs here because hip hop started right here
in the Bronx. Yeah.
So it definitely makes sense.
But you know, like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's in Cleveland.
Yeah, rock and roll did not start in Cleveland.
Exactly, but
that's where it is.
Yeah,
but it can be maintained in that city.
Exactly.
So when you look at that, you know,
I would put it. You know what? This is kind of this is not our topic, but since we're saying this, I would be okay with it being in Atlanta.
True,
because Atlanta can have the space and the real estate for it. And to me, it doesn't really matter where a hip hop museum, all-time museum, or a hip hop Hall of Fame or whatever. To me, it doesn't necessarily matter where it is location-wise, as long as it is supported. And then what I would do is, for that museum, I would make it a venue spot too, because anytime you don't have any museum days as far as coming in and seeing the art, at least we can still have finances going into it by having an actual stadium as well, award ceremonies, concerts, and anything that we could think of.
That will bring capital to it.
Right, exactly. And any hip-hop paraphernalia and anything from a retail merchandising type of situation can still fund the actual place when there are not days where people want to come in and actually look at the art.
And that's what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame does.
Exactly,
you have
because it's a stadium
there.
inside.
Right. And then even though it's not a normal stadium, you could put up a stage in there and it's equipped to have shows.
Right.
Like even the Christian band Newsboys dropped the album and did a release in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Yeah. So if it's like a museum / venue spot or even a movie theater, that would be great, because it don't have to necessarily be a full-fledged movie theater, but it could have a theater inside. So when hip-hop related movies like NWA, Tupac movie, and Notorious movie, you would go there to see it. The money would go into
the fund in the building.
Right, the building, and it would help the community around it.
That's a great idea, man. I mean, they need to do that. There's so much of artists that make so much money now in hip hop that they can actually do that. They can actually do that.
Wow. Well, then we'll probably save that for another time.
Yeah, we'll save it another time.
So, but that is great. That is actually a great idea. Go ahead, Cinema.
But it's just like when the breakdancing venue that was there for years in New York, because it was an abandoned building, finally got bought and shut down. No one ever looked and see who owned that property when people got resources to save it. Right. Then it would still be there. You got to start thinking entrepreneurially if you're going to do this. And, it's with today where we're talking about independence with these artists that we're going to be talking about in a minute.
Yes.
That's part of it. And the whole thing is you want independence and then you want to make things to support it. But that's half of the issue. Is there an audience for it?
Oh, I believe
I believe there is.
I believe if done the right way, with the right backing, and with the support of the hip hop community and black community as a whole, because hip hop is something that we have birthed, and so I think if that support, hey, any jazz museum. The history of the early jazz, some of our jazz legends that we can name today, Coltrane, Miles Davis, and stuff like that. Yeah. If we could have museums like that, here's the thing. We have right now, the Smithsonian African American History Museum in Washington, D.C. Nobody black owns that.
What about there's a jazz museum in Harlem. I heard about I just heard about today. There's a jazz museum in Harlem. I forgot which part of Harlem it is, but and they bring the kids there during the camp, which my kids are going to next week. Yeah. They have a jazz museum in Harlem. So it would be a great idea to open up a hip hop museum, hip hop Hall of Fame or just a hip hop museum. And like you said, it could be anywhere because New York is very pricey with their price and everything. Because a lot.
But if you have something, have something like that,
who owns it though? You know how I always go to that. I have to.
Yes, you do. Yes.
Who owns this jazz museum?
Great idea.
Is it black owned?
I don't even know if it's black owned or not. I don't know. That's a good question because
see a lot of like foundations and stuff end up running museums if they want to keep them open, and which you have a backer and then you have public support. So it's just a lot of things you got to look into, and that's why location is important. You have to go. It has to be in a city that'll embrace it. That locally, people come to it, and when people afar aren't going to it.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing. It's like once, people aren't going to the Apollo to see shows, the Apollo's not going to stay open.
Because that's the only thing it has going in the Apollo Theater. The shows that keep it going.
Right. And, but that's just an example. It has to be, it has to be financially stable or at least able to have backing and support to survive dry seasons. You know, vacation seasons, if you're out there, people will go see it, but then it has to be able to operate full year.
Wow.
Independence is a big thing, man. It really is, man.
Well, so let's get into our topic. So today's topic and the title of the episode is Independence Day.
Yes.
Independence. So we're talking about independent artists, independent record labels, artists who started independent who are now major people, artists who have started major who are now independent. We'll talk about the positives and the pros and cons to being with by having your independence, and the pros and cons to being signed to a major label. Mm-hmm. So, Zaccheus,
yes,
read for us. You know what? Let's do it in this order. What you have ready? You have the independent label definition ready?
Yeah. I'm gonna just read it to those who don't know. I already know off the top of my head what independent label means.
All right. So give the definition, and then kind of give your take on it.
Yeah, independent record label or indie label is a record label that operates without the funding of outside major record labels. Many commercial bands and musical acts began their careers on independent labels. Now, to me, independent labels mean that it's something that you funded yourself. Something that you funded yourself and something that you started yourself without the backing of anything, any company or any other company. You started yourself, which is a very hard thing to do. Because most of the time, even here in New York, everybody knows you need money to start a label or start an independent label. You need some kind of backing,
or any business,
or any kind of business matter. You have to know the setup. You have to do a little research, and you have to know how to go about doing it to make it to even exist. Not gonna say it's gonna be successful right away. It takes time to build. It takes everything. With everything, it takes time. But an independent label is a label that it just starts with no one or no company backing it. It just it's your own company, something that you own. You know?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cinema.
Man.
I have an example from another genre, which was gospel. Mm-hmm. You know, for your Vicky Max label, which started with the Kurt Franklin and the Family album, which they were in a garage. That was an independent level, you know. And in that song, you know, the reason why I sing ended up getting played on every radio station, gospel and mainstream, because the song blew up. And it basically established her label where it got out of the back garage because she took a chance with him. That was something that was independent, you know. Kurt Franklin ended up making up something of his own. I think, what was it? Gospel centric. That's how it started, in the back garage with Vicky Mac. But you know, we're gonna, you know, there's many others that's a example of a label.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say this. Mm-hmm. Having your independence is great in all walks of life, right?
Right.
So musically, this is the impression that I get from an artist who says they're label. Who says they're independent versus them actually not being independent. You know? So you have a situation where you got a lot of artists, especially these modern day artists, who will say, oh, well, I'm not signed to a label. A major. Jesus, I'm all over the place. Signed to a major. But the actual deal that they have with this particular independent label will venture with a major for the sake of distribution, financial backing, as far as like getting them on, you know, mainstream radio and stuff like that, and airplay and exposure. Just basically the exposure to an audience. But the actual label itself is independent. How I know somebody's playing themselves is when they say they're independent, but then all of a sudden they're being media trained. They're not able to say anything that they want in their music. So to me, that shows that you're actually not independent. And the deal that you probably would have made, the deal that you're with, and the contract that you're under with the independent label, has given the major label too much input on what should happen. Therefore, spoils the whole point of being independent now. So that's what I noticed in a lot of these new guys. Then, when you start to see the music kind of shift to be what they want it to be, then you kind of see, okay, well, this artist is either gaining his independence or he's just not caring anymore, or his label or whatever that's putting him out is probably taking chances on him. I'll give a good example right now. T.I. has his own label called Grand Hustle.
Right.
T.I. Last album or last few albums have been more of a conscious side. I don't know if anybody knows anything about T.I. currently, but he's becoming more in tune with speaking against the atrocities that are happening against black folks, okay, in the justice system. You know, basically what David Banner's doing. David Banner's now independent. Shout outs to him for releasing the God Box.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, oh,
you
yeah.
know? So T.I. said that he had a album when the label, the head label that he's affiliated with, didn't really want to release the album. So when I hear stuff like that, he's not independent yet, but basically he's on the verge. You know,
yeah, he's putting up the framework.
Exactly. And so what are the pros? And I'm going to let both of you guys, because I had to do that to kind of segue into what I'm talking about.
Right.
What are the pros and cons to being an independent, to being 100% independent artist? What are the pros and cons to that? I'm going to let you start it off, Cinema.
Okay. Number one, it's creative freedom is a pro, because you don't answer to anybody. Like, if I have a song and I want to talk about it, that's fine. There's a lot of pros in the artist venue of that. Like, as far as being an artist, the cons, you have no contacts. You're working everything. You're micromanaging. You probably, until you have management or whatever, you're doing your booking, you're doing your thing, you're paying for promo out, you're doing all of that yourself.
Out of pocket.
Well, the other way with the industry, it's out of pocket too. You just pay it later.
Yeah. We'll get into that later.
But we'll get into that later. Exactly. So basically, your contacts and making a name for yourself and getting your buzz, you're responsible for that. You're putting together your team from scratch. And at first, you don't have a team. You are your team. You're the team. So you got to make sure, you got to find a publisher. You got to decide what kind of publishing arrangements you want to do to make your royalties, try to get with ASCAP and BMI. And it's, you learn a lot.
I'm sorry. Explain what ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC are for people, just so they know.
Basically, a publisher publishes your song. Those people track your song so you get paid. How much is it played? Especially if I don't want to go too deep into mechanical rights and all that stuff, but basically, once you create a piece of music, there's recording. There's the recording copyright, which is separate from the publishing stuff. Publishing is how you get paid. Copyright is how it's owned. Without going too deep,
Yeah.
So basically, you're doing that when you get played on radio, even now YouTube and stuff like that. BMI, CSAC, and ASCAP are tracking it for you when you're a member of them. You have an identity number. You tell them, I'm on this song. I wrote part of this. And this is for writers. So if you're not writing your own music and you're independent, you don't get this. And so this is just an overview,
These are songwriters organizations.
Right.
That we're all signed up to.
Yeah.
Right.
All three of us are.
Yeah.
So, Zaccheus, what would be your opinion of the pros and cons to being
well? I'm gonna go into the cons, and then I'm gonna jump into the pros. The cons is when it comes to being independent artists, you have to have your own money to fund it, and sometimes even I have to even go into even a little bit like maybe a few years ago, even beyond 2015 before we recorded the album, some studios, some of them take advantage of the independent artists. Cause I remember running into this recording studio, and the guy was when the engineer was saying, oh well, one session was $300 just to record one song, and you get no perks with that. You get no.
Are you saying?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Are you saying that he or she gave you that deal because you was independent?
No, this is just the set rate.
That was a base price.
Base price.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
So here's it that you're spending all this money, but you're not getting nothing in return. You're spending and some people do it. Some engineers do understand. Listen, I give you which $50 per hour is fair. I'm this day and age. This was maybe about 2014. This day and age, I cannot believe someone would charge an independent artist $300 a session. Now meaning it was $300 an hour per hour. This dude was charging, and I was like, wait a minute, but how is it that you're charging this much? And you want, and you let me, I give you credit, you give good beats, but yet you charging these artists this much, and you wonder, and you're arguing with me, wondering why people don't come back.
I have a question.
Did
that $300 include a package?
No, it didn't.
So this is without an engineer.
Without an engineer.
And without any mixing or mastering.
No mixing the master. Mr. Master had his own fee.
Okay. I'm gonna get back to you in just a second. I need to segue this real quick. Now you're speaking your personal experience.
That's my personal experience.
Cinema, if you want to share this, I want to get to you on your personal experience. I will get to mine later. Mm-hmm. So now I have to bring this back to you from Zaccheus, from a personal, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Explain that, but get into your pros.
Mm-hmm. I get into my
of
pros.
Being independent. After you tell your pros,
yeah, mm-hmm.
Go deeper into your personal because first off, me and you are friends. I know your history.
Yes.
But if you want to share it for the people,
I will.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna hand it back to you.
Yeah. So as far as the pros, you own your own stuff. No one can tell you what to write. You own, especially when you know about copywritten. You know the SR forms, the copyright forms, PA forms. You know exactly what you're written. Especially if you're a writer, it's perfect. You own your own material. No one can tell you because you're covered under Washington D.C. copyright.gov. No one can tell you that. Well, you stole my material. That's the beauty of being this is the beauty of being an independent artist. You can perform your own song, and no one can tell you that. Well, that sounds like a song that we did. That's the good thing about it. Being independent means that you have your own control, because when you're under a label, they control you. You're the puppet. You cannot. Being independent means that you can collaborate with anybody else. You can collaborate with anybody. When you're a major, you can't do that. When you're a major artist, you gotta answer to a manager. You gotta answer to certain people.
You
gotta answer
get permission.
Permission, yes. If I can work with this artist, can I work with this artist? Is it okay if I work with you? Cannot. In other words, you cannot move unless they tell you to move. You be quiet and listen to your boss. Not when you're signed, they're your boss.
Right.
Yes.
So, and then I'm gonna get to the pros and cons of being a major after I get into talking. After you share, you and Cinema and me share our experiences of being independent. So, back to you. I just want to kind of chime in here for people who are listening so that they know we are going to get to the major label. We are going to get to that. All right. So, back to you, Zaccheus.
Yeah, it's been many times where I've paid $50 an hour. I've paid, but see, when I paid that $150 an hour, I make sure when I go into that studio, I record for an hour and that's it. Because if you are an artist that stay longer than 2 hours with your craft, it's gonna cost you a lot of money. You can imagine paying $150, then you stay for 2 hours to 3 hours. How much would that? You know what I'm saying? It adds up. And I remember one time I did that, and I'll never forget it, right there in Brooklyn. I won't even call the studio. And they was like, well, you owe us about $1,000. And I said, why owe you $1,000? They said, well, we made the beat, we built the beat for you. The beat is worth, the instrumental is worth a lot of money. So therefore you have to come up with the money, and then we'll give you the song. And I said, well, is my song written? They said, well, no, when the song is created, we create the song around it. Those are the nightmares of being an independent artist. You got to really find a good studio and find a studio that can, or even better, be your own engineer and build your own beat and record your own song in your own place. Because some of the engineers, they when you go into some of these studios, they like to take advantage of independent, especially if you don't know too much about the business aspect of being an independent artist and recording your own. They do take advantage of you when you go in there and you record your own studio and you record your own music in the studio. Now, you go in there, you record for 4 or 5 hours. They tell you that you owe us $1,000 and change, and I'm like, what? I went in there and they said that you can't leave now. You owe us this money. We're calling you because you owe us this. We owe us this money. Now, they don't tell you. You can ask. You can always inquire when you go in there, like, how much would this cost for one session? But from that point on, I learned that to always record within an hour, because it could cost you a lot, and you're not, and you spend all that money, and you're not. It's not like when you record that song, you're gonna get it on a major label right away, or you're gonna get money for it. It does cost a lot of money to record music if you don't know how to build your own beat and instrumentals and stuff like. But thank God, today in this age, you can actually go to being an independent artist is easier now, because you don't even need a studio. Sometimes you can you can go on YouTube and buy a beat, and you can purchase a beat on YouTube, and you can bring it to the studio and record there and record in the studio. But make sure when you go into a studio, you record within the time frame you said you're gonna record, because it can't add up and it can't cost a lot. These engineers are not playing. They'll charge a whole lot of money for you just to be there. Yeah.
Before you get in cinema, so the point you're making is you have to prepare.
Yes.
What you're saying is this.
Prepare yourself.
Do not get to the studio and write.
No.
Right?
No.
Right before you get to the studio. So that's the whole point.
Yes.
Cinema, go ahead.
Just exactly what he's talking about. When I was with my first rap group, me and my friend, your cousin, of course, I'm fifth, we never got to record, because when I went and saw that, that was a joke.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
We were two teenagers. Number two, I ended up learning how to play and ended up going to audio school for those reasons that Wayne is talking about.
Where is Zaccheus?
Dealing with that. Zaccheus.
That's fine.
I'm Wayne Zaccheus.
Same person.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Same person. What Zaccheus was talking about.
Right.
Those are the reasons why I went to audio school. I went to Institute of Audio Research in Manhattan, and so basically I was doing stuff for us to do performances while I was getting my education.
See?
And also researching. And then I read Hitman because it was required reading, because even as a sound person, you could get in trouble.
Wow. See?
And there's a lot of snags in the business. That was one problem with being independent. You have to educate yourself, and you're going against people who are trying to rip you, and they know the system. And so you're learning. And so as I'm going to school, people are trying to do stuff. They're trying to do that. And plus, sample law wasn't in effect. I'm giving away my age a bit.
It's okay.
And in the middle of it, sample law changed. So everyone had to start chopping beats.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another thing to learn. So then, you do some ghosting, you do some A&R, and, I can't go into detail about that, but, but, you start doing stuff, hanging around studios, shutting up, and you hear people talk.
Ghosting,
you're like,
ghosting, for those who don't know, you mean ghostwriting and ghost producing, right?
Ghostwriting, producing, and ghost engineering it.
And ghost engineering. Explain what that is real quick. So
that's work.
Right.
Basically, you remember Patrick Swayze? He's there, but he's not there.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So you're doing the work, but you not necessarily have a name credit.
Right. You don't get a name credit. You get your cash.
Right.
But, at that time, being in school, I needed the cash. And so you go here and there, because in audio school, you meet a lot of people who need somebody. They like your hooks. They like your stuff. Plus, back then, my mother was a minister. I wasn't doing anything mainstream back then. So wasn't hurting me. And then I'm getting an education. I'm really doing this for the music I plan to do in the future, and getting your feet wet and, learning as a writer. And the biggest thing is writing, because if you're going to be independent, if you're not getting a part of the writing or writing with someone, like as a writer now, a lot of writers are realizing these artists want to write with them because they want a piece of the writing. Because as an artist, just selling records, you're not going to make money. And so when I saw this, I'm like, oh, I need to write. I need to get in on this.
Wow.
And so, I basically learned how to play to do production. And then I ended up playing in church, which is another education, which helped me as a musician, which also helped my writing, because you learn more songs. And then you learn how these things, and you got to take them apart and learn them anyway.
You learn more songs in a short amount of time.
Right.
So that trains you.
Yeah.
Right. And that helped in other areas, because of that's how it is in the church. You probably heard a song Wednesday, and you have to know it Sunday.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. You get back then tapes. Then you get like when you used to get the CDs, 5 or 6 songs. Okay, learn this by next rehearsal.
Yeah. Great
education.
Yes.
Where you see a lot of producers and stuff come out of there. A lot of people I respect came out of the church. And that's why they can operate so fast. Sean Martin from Snarky Puppy being one of them, Oh my goodness. Brilliant mind. Brilliant musical mind. So getting back on the path.
Right.
Something happened with me where I got, I was working with people, and then it's like I got burned.
Yeah.
And everybody went on. So I dropped music for about a few years. Then I came back with you guys.
Oh.
But with all that, with all my education though. So this time I said, I'm not doing it. And with how it is now, it's easier. Like, it's easier to get your hands on a publisher. It's easier for independent artists to put something out with publishing, with it being tracked. There's ways, there's vehicles for it nowadays. So when I came back, I'm like, And basically what Prince did when he fought Warner Brothers kind of started this, but they thought it was crazy. But now what he was talking about and fighting for, everyone's aware of.
Yeah.
And so that was a big turn for me as an artist, because, my group, we never even ended up recording anything.
Oh, man.
And so and so we were kids. It was fine. It was great. Right. It was a great education. It wasn't a bad breakup or nothing. So, right. Don't start no rumors.
I remember the group thing back in '94 when I said we
right.
It was hard. It's hard. I'm the only one that's doing music till this. Like everybody else stopped and continued. It's
like that because
I
what
could
it
attest
is
to that too. Because and just real quick, so I'm gonna keep it brief, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to tell what the pros and cons are to being independent. You guys already did that, so I'm just gonna skip straight to my experiences, right? So I never had any experience with going into a professional studio and recording because I studied the game very early as a child. I would say around the junior high school, middle school time. When I decided, man, I think I want to do this full time. That didn't happen until like my freshman or sophomore year of high school. I sort of get serious about music, and I put basketball to the side.
Wow. Okay.
So what happened was, what I would do is I would read up how much studio sessions would cost. There was a group, Christian hip hop group called United Souls, that I had met a while back. At this time, I wasn't living in New York. I was living in Oklahoma at this time.
Oh.
One of the artists from that group is now one of the main people on the board for Rapzilla.com. Let's keep it moving. So, I learned from one of the producers that work with them how much it will cost for studio time, their experience, right? He said, man, forget all that. I bought my own equipment. So I was like, okay, well, how does somebody do that? Him and a couple other people I came across who were talking about doing their own thing. I started to look more into artists who actually do their own thing, right? So, I'm younger than you guys. So I would say what you guys already knew, I learned later, but I learned younger because I was younger at the time. You know what I'm saying? So I was able to benefit from the things that you guys already been through. That way for me, I could say, okay, now I know what not to, I know exactly what to expect if I was to run into this. The thing is, I didn't want to run into it at all. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to start my own thing. I didn't have equipment yet, but you know what I did? I started to find out who did music. I had two of my best friends. They was rapping. My cousin was trying it out, a couple other friends, and we kind of formed our own little Wu-Tang.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And, I was the head of it, and I was saying, yo, I'm going to have my own record label because I was looking at Master P and I was looking at a couple other entrepreneurs. I was looking at Diddy, Bad Boy. I was looking at, Diddy first, then Master P second.
Right.
The reason why I'm mentioning Master P is because when No Limit came out with that movement, maybe this is okay. This is what I learned from Master P. From Diddy, I saw the movement and what he was doing musically. I did not know the business side. What I learned from Master P is that every now and then he would drop a nugget of the business.
Wow.
So I have him to thank as an example of being an entrepreneur and having your own record label, because every now and then there would be a nugget of information that he would put out. You know what I'm saying? Shout outs to Master P for that.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to do my own thing. And then, I saw Cash Money come out with a label. I started to see a lot of these artists come out with their own record labels. And they didn't have the same, to me, it didn't look like they had the same type of money presence as Diddy. So I said, well, shoot, I don't have to be rich then. Because to me, I felt from Diddy, this is what I got watching Diddy. I was like, okay, well, Diddy got the money. I see why he can do that. But what I got from looking at Master P was, not to say Master P didn't have the money, but what I saw was him coming out on a grassroots level. So I said, okay, I want to do my own thing. So I started to learn the business side. Then I had to learn the technical side.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, what equipment can I use? What equipment? So I started looking to producing. So at the time, I'm young, but I have the advantage of starting off on computer software.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And how to, make beats and stuff like that, And so this is around high school. I was sharpening my skills with writing and just freestyling or whatever.
The pro student reasons, you learned that too, right? When you You learned that on your own, though, right?
Yeah, I learned that later. I'm self-taught.
Yeah.
So I'm self-taught everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, others I've watched people do.
Yeah.
And then I try to take from that. But I'm self-taught with pretty much almost everything. So I invested a lot of. So as the time goes on, I started to learn how do you mix. One of the first original programs I used to kind of try to mix songs was a program called Sonic something. But at the time, SoundForge was not Sony yet.
Sonic Foundry?
Yeah, you know this, Cinema.
I loved that program back in the days, yep.
Right. The mic I had was a computer mic. Before, we had to record on tapes, actual tapes.
Tapes, wow,
yep.
Yeah.
Okay? We had a karaoke machine and tapes. Me and my boy was doing demo tapes, and we were sending it to Desert Storm,
wow,
Def Jam,
yeah,
Bad Boy, and many other record labels back at that time. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
I mean,
yeah,
we had horrible quality, but we were trying to do whatever we could with at the time.
Right.
So then I started learning stuff. Let me fast forward because I need to hurry up. So I come back to New York in 2004. You know what I'm saying? 2005. I was working with 2004. I was working with a program called Fruity Loops, which is very popular today.
Right.
And I was making beats on that. You know, then I linked up with Cinema here. Me and Cinema always knew each other from a family standpoint.
Yeah,
because our families knew each other. But then we started to link up. I'm on a friendship. And he gave me the MPC 1000. So now I'm like, I felt like, well, good. Now I'm making beats on what everybody else is making beats on now. It was in industry standard. The MPC on any type of beat machine at that time was the industry standard. But if you talk about it today, people have moved away from that. And they're back to the software. So here I was using software, and at the time, software, you got clowned for making beats on software.
Yeah, and it was ahead of its time.
Right. And now you're starting to get clowned by some people for not using it. I mean, that's kind of odd. Hip-hop aficionados would never do that. But some of the new people coming in are not buying hardware anymore to make their music anymore.
Right. Can I just like clarify a point in that?
Yeah.
Before you continue?
Yeah.
I have a 1000 still too. You know that.
Yep.
And it's over on the counter as a remembrance piece. And what's over here right by me is a machine now. You know?
Right.
I have my 2000 next to my 1880 on the other side of the room, like just as dedication of like what I was using coming up. But now it's like I'm using the machine, I'm using Studio One, I'm using Logic X, you know, and just to show you how it's changing. And my audio teacher told me when I was using Performer and I knew how to use it well, he said, this is the future. He said, focus on the software, buy hardware if you must. But this is the future. And he saw this when I was in school in 94, in audio school.
Wow.
Okay, so continue.
Right. So I was the type of cat who I knew how much studio time cost because I had friends who were paying it. Their studio time I heard was cheap. $75 to $200 an hour, depending on the situation and the type of studio they was in.
Right.
So I was hearing stuff like that. Me personally, I did not have the bank to do that. So I spent a lot of time and money investing into my own equipment to record.
Right.
And then it brings me to today. I still haven't been in an actual studio and recorded. If anybody's heard any music from me, that is all personal studio stuff. Okay? To reveal that, because some people don't know that. A lot of people think, wow, because it sounds good.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
That means we did our job.
Yes.
You know? So the teamwork that me and Cinema have come together to sonically make the example sound good is the effort of all of his experience and and all of my experience. So it took, people don't see the groundwork. So that's why I wanted to spend a little time talking about briefly, not everything, but at least briefly about what goes on behind the scenes to get where we are today. How it takes years of knowledge, years of information to do probably a year's worth of an album.
Right.
But it just goes to show that if you put in the work, that you will get to where you need to be. I have to segue into this real quick. Major labels, because we need to talk about some artists right now.
Right.
Okay. Zaccheus, do you have any type of info on what a major label is, what a major label does? And then we will expand more on that and talking to artists who have started independent, who've gone major, and guys and artists who are major who have gone independent. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I see like Shady Records and all that stuff, and
right,
I do see.
But let's talk about what a major label is real quick, just so we could,
Major labels, they usually they sign artists to the label, and when the major labels sign the artists to the label, they form the artists, or they portray the artists, what the images they portray them. They want them to be, as far as to sell records, image wise, as far as like for females is the looks, for males is the looks too. So
you're talking about marketing,
marketing aspect of it, and also and with major labels and the sound that they want from what they want artists to sound like, the sound of what the music, I guess they go into like, let's say for instance, like for example, like trap music, they wanted to go into how today's music sounds, like what's popular, so they go into that. Major labels also control what the artists, as far as what they put out, as far as like what's going to be a single, what's not going to be a single, what's going to be on the charts, what's going to be their breakout song. They do that, and they also go through their lyrics and say, okay, this, you can't say this, you cannot, this is what you can say, this is what you can't say on this song. So they go and they major labels, I guess that's there, and they push you so you could be popular, so you could be on the market, so you could be on the Billboard chart, so you could be popular out there and to get out there. And that's what major labels do. They market, they promote, they do the groundwork. So you have to do, all you gotta do is come with the song, the lyrics, and they're gonna go through the song and lyrics with you, and they're gonna find out what's the best fit for you to put out the single. That's what major labels do.
All right. So a major label in essence is a corporation. So I just want to make sure that people know that's what we're trying to say.
Okay.
So go ahead, Cinema.
Okay. First thing, like when you get with a major label, the first person you meet is A&R, artist and repertoire. I had some experience in this, but I'm not going to talk about where.
Right.
So everything he's just said that they do to you, that A&R is responsible for. You don't get to create your image. You have a clause in your contract that you can't speak about anything against your own product or label. Otherwise, the label can sue you. 3, you can't, 3, your sound is picked for you. And then the first thing they give you is a vocal coach. And so you go working on vocals. Most of the time, you show up in the studio, you're given what to do, and you show up and you basically record the songs they want you to record. If you have clout or they signed you because you're a good writer, then you get to make your own things. For example, Troublesome 21, an underground album, was the album Tupac did that he had to release underground because the label rejected it. And then he had to do Strictly for My Ends. I'll just say the title of that album that way.
Yeah, we know what you mean.
Right. So, because I'm not going to say that word.
Yeah.
So basically, Troublesome 21, like if he was an independent artist, Troublesome 21 would have came out in a major way. But you can do a whole album that gets rejected, and you got to go do another album.
Yes.
And a lot of it's a lot of things with a major, because it's really about their bottom line and you have to go through a lot of approval to get anything done.
Yes,
it goes from level to level.
Level to level.
Because level to level, you can have momentum, and then you get to somebody and they're like, no. Remember, Big L's album was shelved, and then they dropped it after he died, which I thought was foul.
Yeah, you're talking about that motion picture album, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It was shelved, and everyone knew it was shelved. And then all of a sudden, something happens to him. He's out there, and something just happens to him. Then the label releases it because it was done. That's how they have all this post-mortem stuff. Oh, these are all albums and songs that are rejected. Prince used to go through that a lot, and that's why he started writing Slave and stuff, because he'll do something, and they're like, no, we're not doing that. And he fought for his freedom, because that's what it is. If you're a creative person, that's a hard, even though you get the money and stuff, a hard way.
I'm sorry, real quick. I had to correct myself. The Big L album is called The Big Picture. Sorry, go ahead.
Big Picture, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that is. It's called The Big Picture. Mm-hmm. Right. So, he never got to enjoy the fruits of his labor of making a good album.
Right. Because
you're dealing with a suit, which I was getting to, who, the final guy who has the final say isn't somebody who cares about music.
Yeah. They just care about making money.
Right. And so at the time, it didn't look like a profitable album. Like we talked about this for Hip Hop for Sale.
Yep.
If you want to go back
episode
about how.
1,
right.
Episode 2, and the last and episode 10 of Mrs. Z and Fifth.
And we talked about it a little bit on the Prodigy episode, how labels had extra money to just let a group develop. And that doesn't happen anymore.
That's true. A major label, I'm going to get back to you just a second, Cinema.
You're fine.
A major record label's purpose is priority. Their thing is money first, music second. Independent artists or independent label is music first, money second. Mm-hmm. So, major labels, I would say, on one end, I would say major labels are like this. They have the artists, they do the music. But I will agree with this. The music is great, fine. But at the same time, it's a business, and it does have to be profitable. The one thing a major label will do is that they have to make sure that they make more money off of you than they have to spend on you.
Right.
So, Cinema, back to you. Can you give us some examples of artists who were first independent who went major, and then I'm going to give it to Zaccheus to give us some artists who were first major and who are now independent. All right, Cinema, you go ahead.
Okay. Basically, you have Justin Bieber.
Okay.
And I didn't go hip hop. I wanted to go something that everyone knows.
That's fine.
He basically started on YouTube. He grew his following. He got discovered by Usher, which was an independent label, back then, because Usher was just starting. So now Usher's anything Usher does, even musically, was already major. Now even his label dealings are considered major because he exploded from that. Bieber exploded from that, and then Bieber left Usher to where he is now, which was a label for his last album. And so that's an example of someone coming from an independent road, because he was somebody nobody wanted to sign. A major didn't want him. And then he got signed by an independent label, and the floodgates broke. Basically, I don't even care what you think about his music or whatever. Basically, the sales are crazy. They match They match the Beatles numbers. The Beatles numbers were insane because numbers like that weren't seen before. Mm-hmm. And so basically, that's someone who was just doing independent stuff. A lot of people, what's her name? Christina Grimmie, who was murdered, was on her way. She had just got signed by Adam after getting on The Voice, but Christina Grimmie.
Well, that's the one that was killed in Florida. That girl.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her album just dropped this year, and I mean,
I think I heard about that.
And that was somebody I was listening to on the underground, who I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
If she would have had time to continue, she would have been, or somebody who didn't come from the music industry into the industry. That would be Demi Lovato, because you're singing for Disney, even though that's kid stuff. That's not you're doing records for Disney, but that's not really doing records yet,
Yeah.
And, we could name a lot of people came out of Disney, but Demi Lovato's a major record artist now,
Mm-hmm.
Same thing happened to Ari from Nickelodeon. She was doing YouTube videos and stuff because she was on the show. So she was doing covers.
Who was that?
Ariana Grande.
Okay, just making sure people hear that.
So Ariana was another one and who has pipes. So basically, this generation of who we have on majors came from the independent world, and they got their own following, whether they were doing acting or other things.
Let's go back in history just to give you another opportunity.
Okay.
So let's go back to some older. Let's go back to some artists, probably from the 80s or 90s hip hop. Who could you think of that started independent? Who went major, and then I'm gonna let Zaccheus take over on the people who are major, who went independent, who are actually doing better. So go into that one more time, Cinema.
See, I'll go to the 90s.
Yeah.
Ice Cube, but then he went back. He ended up becoming a major label. He was independent. NWA was independent, whether people want to realize that or not.
No, that's true. That is.
And then he signed with Interscope. Then he signed. Then Ice Cube signed a label deal with Interscope, which means he was backed by a major, which made his label major.
Yes.
And so Ice Cube went from independent to major. And he's doing it again in film right now. Side note, but he went from independent because he was concerned about the money. And we were talking about that. He was more concerned about how do I get the money than getting signed. And it's all documented in Straight Outta Compton if you want to, watch it. The first album, as an artist, you have to wait for your money to come. And he's like, how do I get the money now? You got to have your own label. Okay,
Right.
And so that's one of my, off air, we talked about it because I tell you, I loved Ice Cube. I still do. Not that I don't.
Right.
I'm watching Big 3 and I'm like, last night he's doing good. Today was a good day. I'm in my room like,
Oh, yeah. That's so.
Wait. He performed it?
He performed it on Big 3 last night. Yeah.
What? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, big up Big 3 because he's still like business wise, like he was the inspiration for me. Because how you're going to come out of a group like NWA, you dropped America's Most Wanted, but then again, you make your own label, you drop the EP and an album in the same year, which was like, Kill at Will and Death Certificate. Well, I want to kill, I want to kill Sam, No Vaseline on that, he dropped two.
He was ahead of his time. He was ahead of his game.
Yeah. You know what we'll do? I just got to cut in real quick. What we said that we were going to do an episode specifically about Ice Cube.
Yeah.
So let's kind of save that for that, okay? Because
but yeah.
Right.
Exactly. But I'm just giving the example of someone
I get you.
who came from the independent road.
Yeah.
Wu-Tang. That's an easy one because you know how that was coming.
Yeah.
Wu-Tang was recording on Morningstar Road around the corner from where I was living.
Oh. Nice. Staten Island.
Yeah. They ain't there no more, so go around Morningstar Road, you ain't finding them.
Right.
They was over there on Morningside Road, right?
They made a studio in a house over there. You could hear it when you passed and walked over there. That's when I was living in Manners Harbor on Staten Island. And so they were on Morningside Road. They did that first album. I don't know how much of everything was done there, but they were working there. Mm-hmm. And so their first album was released independently, and then the label picked it up.
Was it Loud Records or Tommy Boy?
Loud Records.
Loud Records, right? Yeah.
Loud. And and so Loud Records picked it up. They were selling it out of their trunks.
That was back then.
Just like Cross Movement was. You have the original tape. You had the original version of Cypher Time with Cruz Cadero. He's not on the remix album. They call it the remix album, but everyone sees it as their first album. But that's the remix album because the original
Heaven's Mentality.
Yeah, Heaven's Mentality.
Classic.
First one's on tape, and the original version of Cypher Time had that interlude beat on it. The interlude that's before the remix one.
Album's classic.
But yeah, definite classic album.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
But that's what's this thing like? We looking like a Christian Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
They did the same
right?
Right. They did the same formula as Wu-Tang, and so you have a lot of that. Reach Records, Lecrae.
No, there we go.
No kidding. Jesus music going with my top down.
Right.
That's fire. Fire.
Great example. The whole 116 click.
Yes.
With him, Trip Lee, Sho Baraka.
Yeah.
Who else was with them? Tadashi.
Yeah.
Right. They were independent. They were, well, let's put it like this. We're talking about Reach Records, right? So independent
Lecrae,
label. Yep. Lecrae has more. Fast forward, he's to the point where he's more recognized in a more mainstream world now. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he's a good example of somebody who started out in a smaller circuit and is where he is today. His career is excelling. I at one point kind of stepped away from him. I'm starting to slowly kind of come back. I'm starting to see kind of where he's at now. He's going through his own evolution. I mean, it happens. All artists do, And
but
he recently won a BET award.
He won a Grammy.
He won a Grammy.
And that was huge. And that was huge for me because that's a barrier.
Yeah.
And that's a standard. And then he was on Jimmy Fallon.
Right.
See, he's doing the stuff DC Talk did, but DC Talk had signed to Forefront. He did it as an independent.
Right.
And, shout out to DC Talk because, that's my group.
Oh, man, that's old Christian hip hop back in the day.
Yeah.
That's Christian. That's hip hop rock. That's like a synergy of music when you listen to them. That's one of the groups that made me hungry. Yeah, and I'm telling my age, but I don't care. Right. That's one of those groups, that on the Christian side, I was like, oh, we can make stuff that's creative and different. That's just not just normal music. Mm-hmm. So back to Lecrae. Lecrae had that, and then now he has that code deal where he's like got the backing of a major now, and and I love that "Can't Stop Me Now" joint he got.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah, I love that song. That thing's like on repeat on my phone. And I'm singing in the car. Yeah, you don't want to hear me sing right now.
I never heard that record. I might have to look into that. He also has a video. I just want to mention real quick. He has a video with YG on Revolt on that plays on Revolt.
Oh yeah, I gotta listen. I think
the song is called Blessing.
Yeah.
I actually like the record, by the way. But Zaccheus.
Yeah.
Major artists who started with major labels who are now independent. Let's get into that.
Yeah. I'm gonna go into start off with Nas, how he was discovered, but now he's an independent artist. I remember he was with who brought him out? Third Base.
Yeah,
brought him out.
You talking about MC Search?
Yeah, MC Search. Yeah, brought him out.
Back to the grill again.
Also,
back to the grill again. Yeah. And,
you also have to mention Akinelli. Akinelli has something to do with that too.
Or
Yes.
is getting signed to the, yeah.
It's a Queens thing because Akinelli. A lot of people don't notice about Akinelli. Yeah, if you heard Akinelli's music, it's more, club for the ladies, right?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
But not that first album.
Right, not right. Okay, right. I'm just saying for people who know him today,
Yeah.
they know him more so for, I guess you can call it strip club music, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But Akinelli is hip hop. Okay?
Yeah,
so I want to give him that respect. And he knows talent.
Right.
And go find that first album. It's a classic.
Right. And he is a businessman. Okay.
Yes, he is.
So I just want to make sure I give Akinelli that credit because a lot of people talk about Search with Nas, but Akinelli has a lot to do with Nas as well.
Oh wow.
Go ahead,
yes.
Zaccheus.
Also, I want to mention Tyrese, R&B singer.
He's a great example.
He released some independent songs,
albums. He released
albums. Yeah, he wanted to go independent for the longest time, and he did, and it became some of the songs became successful. Yeah, and Tyrese did that. He wanted to bring the essence back into R&B. He even said it. Yeah.
Tyrese's last two albums, that double album, and then that album before he did in his house. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Fire.
The half R&B, half hip hop album.
Yeah.
And then he did another one. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, but go ahead, Zaccheus. I just wanted to.
And Tyrese did that because he wanted.
Great example.
He just wanted to go do something and try independence for the first time. And he did. He said, "You know what? I'm promoting my own. I'm promoting myself. I'm independent." He even said it on the radio. I'm independent, and I'm doing it myself, and I'm trying to push my music out there, and I'm gonna get it out there too. And I'm also gonna mention Wyclef. Wyclef is another one that he started. He had his own label called Clef Records. He was with the Fuji. He signed it. It was signed to that label, and then all of a sudden now Wyclef started this with the Carnival. He branched out on his own and
Columbia.
Yeah. And he wanted to do his own thing. He said, "I'm not stopping. Hey, me and the Fujis don't get along now, but I'm not stopping. He's gonna continue doing what he do," and he did it.
Ain't so much of that. It's so much of the other ones. Their contracts are still.
Yeah, and
he didn't resign.
Yeah. No, he didn't resign and everything. No, he just said, I'm putting music out there, and this is what it is. I'm gonna put it out there, and I'm gonna I'm gonna present it, and that's what he did. That.
And while you're there,
yeah.
If you haven't listened to the Fugees' original album with vocab and everything, if the score was your first Fugees album, you need to listen to the first Fugees album too. That's
Mona Lisa, can I get a date on Friday? And if you're busy,
can I get a date on
Saturday?
Hey. Round up the posse, people coming around my way. Remember that?
And
classic.
Fujila.
Fujila. Yeah, classic.
And a trivia thing. That Mona Lisa's a remix. If you had the original print of the album, it's not on it.
No?
You got to listen to the original version of Nappy Heads.
The beat is different.
You thought it was a LONS like joint. Yeah.
But it was from that time, so that's why I sung it just now because that's what
I know because that was fire. It was so fire. They reissued the album with it on there. Living like there's no tomorrow. Boom bath. Another sound. Oh my gosh. If you want to just because Wyclef, it just you hear his production genius.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I always go buy things from Wyclef. Like he's produced music, hip hop, everything. I will put him against many other producers. He's a musical genius, and he was so ahead of his time.
Yes,
and they used to get laughed at because Fugees took guitars and stuff on stage, and I saw them early on, and I was feeling them, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is fire!" And I was waiting. He said before we were famous, they were laughing at us because we had our guitars and stuff, and They tore it up from day one. So excellent example, an excellent business mind and he did it right. And then, a lot of these guys achieve independence by production.
Yes.
A lot of them, because they got their money to buy their contracts out.
Yeah. So yeah, but continue, cause you mentioned Wyclef. So how about as I just kind of push it along, as a good example, Wu-Tang themselves, because Wu-Tang had to go. They're more so underground now.
Yes, they left. Right.
Yeah. Well, because Loud went out of business.
Yeah.
And they had to deal with they had the when they released A Better Tomorrow, the album was already done, but they did a deal with Warner Brothers to kind of put that out.
Yes.
Right.
The reason why I'm mentioning Wu-Tang is because you got the solo deals, and you got a lot of them going more independent. Method Man doesn't have to wait to do an album now. He had to before because he was with Def Jam.
Yes.
When we mentioned Raekwon, another one, he just released an album called The Wild.
Yeah,
he don't have to wait on nobody.
I heard it on YouTube.
Right.
Yeah.
He's independent. I've heard him talk about the things that he has to do to put out his music now. You know what I'm saying? So, I just was mentioning them as an example. I want to go back to Tyrese real quick because I don't want to leave this out.
Right.
Some people are probably listening and saying, yeah, but Tyrese was in a position to go independent. That is the truth because he's been acting all these years. This man has been smart with his money. So, yes, he is in a he has the exposure already because he already had a career and he has the money to be in a position to go independent. So, I just want to put that out there because I know a lot of people are saying, yo, you're naming guys who are already established. Let's name somebody who didn't necessarily have that same type of financial backing prior to being independent, and that is Chance the Rapper.
Yes, Chance the Rapper. Yeah.
Cinema. We just saw Chance the Rapper win how many Grammys?
Yeah.
How many?
Gosh, I don't even remember the exact number.
Well, he had more than one,
I know at least two.
Wow.
Okay.
And Grammys are voted on not by us, but by us as artists, but not by the public, but artists. Right. That's artists acknowledging your music.
Right.
And you're talking about an album that didn't sell anywhere retail.
Right. This man,
wow.
Chance, and then I'll also mention Childish Gambino in a second.
After that, I'm gonna mention Buju Banton. He started his own label too, but
okay.
Yeah.
We'll get to him in just a second.
It's okay.
So, Chance the Rapper. The only reason why we're talking about Chance the Rapper right now is because he's current and he's become now the success model of who to study when going independent. Not just in hip hop, but in music, period. That's what I'm noticing as far as what I see surrounding him as far as media attention goes. And he also refused $1 million deal.
What?
Okay, before I get into that, Cinema, if you have any information on that, because we've talked about this off air, I'll let you have that. Before I get to you, just a second. So, Chance the Rapper is independent, but he has a mainstream clout. From what I see,
first independent artist, not artist who doesn't have
not signed
label,
to a major, right?
Not even signed to an independent label to perform on Saturday Night Live.
See,
wow.
See,
wow.
And so, the one thing about him, I'm gonna keep it all the way real. I haven't listened to all of his music. I've only heard a few stuff from him lately. He's not somebody that I've been listening to from the beginning, but I read up on him. He had mixtapes. He didn't even have an album. Right. But he had mixtapes and he was touring off of mixtapes. He was going on tours just off of his mixtapes. Now he's met a lot of people and he's collaborated with the right people. He's collabed with 2 Chainz, Lil Wayne, and stuff like that, right? These are artists who are established. So he got with the right people. Got to give him the credit. Got to give him the credit for that, right?
How we do that?
Well, okay.
Worked.
So Chance is from Chicago. Mm-hmm. Chance knows people. Chance knows people in the industry. Chance, go ahead.
And before Chance did the conversion, he was grinding as an artist anyway, independently before. And then the direction of the music changed. And so I didn't really hear about him till the direction of the music changed, because then he started collabing with people, I listened to. But, a change in his life, he wanted to do a different style of music as far as the consciousness of his music,
Right.
Because he was doing he was doing what everybody else was doing.
Yeah, he was.
And then the consciousness of his music changed. That's when I started finding out about him for myself, speaking for me. But, then people were vibing off of his positiveness and wanted to work with him.
He has a couple albums out. I think the album that got the most attention was 3.
Right.
Because around that time he collabed with Kanye. He was on that song with Kanye and Kurt Franklin, Ultralight Beam, which they performed on SNL.
Right.
That's when I started to see more him get the attention. I've heard his name before, like about a year or so ago. Maybe 3 years ago, possibly. I might have heard his name, but I haven't heard any of his music. But I just started to see kind of where he's at independently.
Right.
Seeing some of his, his name started to be mentioned with Kanye, because a lot of people were saying that Chance was like the early version of Kanye, because he was doing Jesus Walks type of content.
Wow.
Because he has songs like that. So I wanted to mention him as a good example.
Yeah.
Because he is what I would call true independence in this regard, where he could do a song talking about his faith, but then still keep that audience that's been listening to him before he put a lot of that in his music yet.
Right.
We mentioned Lecrae, because Lecrae is somebody who started out what you would call a Christian rapper. Lecrae now comes to the point where he's like, nah, don't call me a Christian rapper, because it kind of marginalizes my content. Right. Okay, fine. You're a grown man. You're entitled to be whatever you want. Wow. But I notice Chance doesn't have to come out and say that.
Yeah, but
you see what I'm saying? Yeah, go ahead.
But let me mention something.
Yeah.
The Lecrae statement is more about worldwide, since he's going worldwide.
Right.
Now, Christian and gospel is a genre we have here.
Right.
He won't be classified like that overseas. So if you start putting that on his stuff, where his new markets are, they have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
And so I found that I'll share something in my own music. I have a Christian and gospel label on my first 2 albums. And so I started checking my stats overseas, and I started checking genres. In certain places outside of America, that doesn't exist. So I had to change what I'm putting down as my genre for if I'm selling things outside of the U.S.
You have a point. From a personal side, when putting out the example, they're asking other genres that you would be listed under.
Right. Because
under East Coast hip hop, that's what we're under.
Well, right. Well, it's because our content is a combination of gospel and more and conscious in terms of our lyrical content. But as far as a genre sake, they have to kind of list what other things to put you in. You make a point with Lecrae, because Lecrae was in a gospel chart, gospel hip hop chart, and then a hip hop chart. That is all over the world, because music is a world thing, but some things are more common to here in the States that are not common to others. Like China doesn't have a religion. That is a country. That is a country that is more so. I guess you could say they have a culture. I wouldn't say a culture of secularism, but there's not much of a religion. There's not much of a religion per se. or and then you have other countries that don't really have what we're talking about.
Right.
So to them, it would have to be if in their stores, they would have to probably this sounds like hip hop, even though in America they're talking about Jesus. So we're just gonna put this in the hip hop section because we don't have a Christian hip hop, we don't have a gospel so and so section. So you'll probably see Kurt Franklin in an R&B section.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But then you also see that here with some record stores too. But then you also have the fact that you have people who are looking for a particular genre for the sake of finding something in an organization. They do have to label it a certain way just so they can be found.
Right.
Now it's when your music is listened to, then the listener can say, oh, okay, well, this is in this category, but to me, this sounds like this. I can interpret it as this.
Right.
Okay.
And see, in America, we have so many subgenres that are not everywhere else.
That's true.
Wow.
And so that's what they're talking about, because they're talking from a marketing thing. But a lot of people here get offended, but they act like this is the only place people listen to music.
Yeah, like Nas and Damian Marley, good example. Also, me and Zaccheus with this. They have a reggae hip hop album. So you'll see what's that album called? Jesus Christ. Distant Relatives,
Distant
right?
Relatives, yeah.
You'll see that both in a hip hop section and a reggae section in the same store.
Exactly. Based on which shipment it came in with.
In the same store.
So the example will go into a reggae section,
and a hip hop section.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, that's what alternative used to be before alternative became its own genre. Then now it created a new problem.
Great
for
example.
The store.
Great example. So, just to kind of move up in this. So, Zaccheus, you said you want to talk about Buju Banton, right?
Right.
Yeah, Buju Banton was an artist. Now he's incarcerated. He's incarcerated now, but before he was incarcerated, he got into his own record, Gargamel Records. He did his own record. He started his own record label, and he started putting on his own music, conscious Rasta music, conscious music. And once he put the music out, he was able to get more of a recognition with his consciousness. As well, even his earlier days with the dancehall music, he did that too. But more of his conscious dancehall, he got more of a. He's not an artist that went independent and in the reggae market. Even he's still an icon. Even though he's incarcerated now, he's still an icon in the reggae diaspora music. He's still an icon till this day. He's gonna be released maybe next year, but still independent. My point is that independent artists is like the best way. Chance the Rapper is a perfect example of you can do this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He's a special case though. So that doesn't happen to everybody. We know that because all three of us are independent.
Right.
He's a special case.
He's a special case in the sense that he was able to do basically what Drake should have did. Drake did not have to sign with anybody. Drake had a fan base locally in Canada. His acting with Degrassi, the show Degrassi, he already had a fan base. In
America with that too.
Right, exactly. He had a fan base. Well, started out there, but then he had a fan base here.
Right.
He already was establishing himself musically. And he had the support of Noggin at the time. That was what it was called. And then Nickelodeon bought it. And then it became Teen Nick or whatever it's called today. So yes, it helped him as far as credibility. Right. But as far as a following, he didn't have to. Drake can, and to some degree, hasn't strayed too far away from independence because he actually still kind of is. But the point I'm making is that Chance is a special case because of this. This man has gotten to where he is to the point where he's so independent. Mac Miller's a good example of this.
Right.
So independent to the point where he's turning down a label. Back in the days, people would look at him who are starving for a label, they would call him stupid. But this man's patience, his dedication, and the man is blessed. Okay? That's why he's a special case. Mac Miller is another one. Independent, has worked for him. Another rapper I don't really listen to, but his name is Lil Uzi Vert.
Lil Uzi Vert. Yeah.
Okay. They don't necessarily need a label. They have. They're performing to stadium crowds, and they don't even. They're in commercials. Chance the Rapper's in a Kit Kat commercial.
Yeah, I know. I seen it.
So I'm gonna go ahead and assume that Chance the Rapper ain't got to worry about no 360 deal with that. Whatever he negotiated with Kit Kat, he got.
Yeah.
And he'll continue to get. You know? Here's the thing about Chance the Rapper, though. He's marketable because he doesn't have a criminal record, not that I know of.
Right.
He doesn't promote any criminal activity.
And all you see with him on his social media is him with his daughter.
So
He's a hat. You see him smiling.
So major record labels asked him for acting to.
He turned down.
It was major news.
Right after the Grammys, what was he? He was offered what, a $10 million, I think a 10 album deal or something like that for like 10 million. I don't know, something like that.
Something like that, and he said no. I enjoy being independent.
You know why? Because he would make more money anyway. The problem was you had an industry come to him and say, we want to sign you because they want to make the money off of him. And because of the fact that he is marketable, but they would change his music. I think that's probably the biggest reason. Number one, he would lose his freedom musically, and then he would have to change his music.
Of course he would, yeah.
So, and number one, he's already successful without him. If you're already good without him, why do you need to be with him anyway?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Cinema, you had an example that we talked off the air. We talked about Jay-Z. We talked about Michael Jackson and Prince. You talked about how Michael Jackson, yeah, he's industry, right? But Michael Jackson got his platform built to do songs like They Don't Care About Us. And other songs we talked about.
Because by the time by the time he left Quincy and stuff, he was running MMJ he was signing other people. He's doing his albums through his thing with the Epic distribution. He continued on with Sony for distribution, but it was through his label. So basically, he's doing Broadway tunes like Smile on History. He's covering Beatles songs. Oh, but then again, he owned that catalog.
Mm-hmm.
But he's doing Come Together. Boom, ba-doom.
Mm-hmm.
Paul McCartney's getting a lot of money just because Michael Jackson's doing his song and it's getting played everywhere. It was smart. He was known as a business deal. I've heard a soundbite where the guy said, you're laughing at him and you think you're going to take him. And when he's leaving, you don't know why you just gave up everything. He was a savvy businessman.
My dream label would be a label that has an independent mindset as far as creative control, but has major label money.
Right.
That label does not exist, but there's been some examples that somewhat kind of mimic that. But that would be because I'm not into signing with anybody because of that. That's why I wanted to create that, because I knew it didn't exist.
Right.
To the knowledge that I had, so I wanted to create that. So, yeah, go ahead.
See, that's, I think that's where Rock Nation is going.
That's a good example, Rock Nation.
But,
that segues into Jay-Z.
Right. Because basically, listening to Underground, Jay-Z, grown up with him, listening to him on Original Flavors albums back in the days and stuff like that.
Or Jazzo, when he was with Jazzo.
Jazzo, yeah.
Yeah, those days.
And so he's always had those styles and skills that everyone says he's bit. Like when Jigga What came out. I was like, that was one of his styles. You need to go back and listen to classic Jay-Z. Go before Reasonable Doubt. There is records. That's why he put Can I Get Open on the best of. Because he knew he had fans from back then. Oh, yeah, you forgot about this? I killed this. And then so that's somebody who was lyrical talking about things back then. And I think he just went a full circle. And now, even with the other label, this is opinion. This is not fact. This is Cinemascapes' opinion. So you know that. I think more with the album, with Rockefeller, which was under Def Jam, there was still kind of caution there on his content. Not that he wouldn't say what he wanted to say, but, you're more in a established business, like distributed by an established hip-hop label, as opposed to now on rock, you do what you want to do because there's nothing connected to that but you. Your videos are coming out on your own streaming service, which is Tidal. So, you're not dealing with MTV having to play it. You're not dealing with, if I rub these people the wrong way, there's no outlet for it. He has created outlets to do what he wanted to do. And he spent the years making the money creating the outlets. And now I have the outlets. I'm putting it out on my outlet. And when it blows up and everyone's excited on my outlet, Apple Music been waiting to sell that album, he creates the want now, because if you're exclusively rolling with me, you get to get it. And if you weren't a Sprint customer and you tried to make a Tidal, you tried to do the Tidal thing, you still didn't get that album.
and see, we were trying to build up to mention Jay, because he was what we were talking about, artists major who are doing things independently, being more having more creative content in their music now. Somebody who is in a position to build that platform already, I will say, has a better chance of being received when their music changes, as opposed to somebody who comes out, says whatever they want. They have a harder time of being received, because even though they make great music, it's just that nobody has heard it yet.
That's true.
Like I say all the time, and I say this humbly, but anything that us three have done is great music. It just needs the exposure. Okay? That's how I look at it. Okay?
Right,
yeah.
right.
So but that's how But that's how it is when you discover a band, even if they're popular in another country. Like, because I listen to a lot of international music, and then you discover it. Right. Because until you discover it, you haven't heard it. So you don't know what it is. Then you're like, wow, well, how did I survive? Then I'm going to look for everything they've done.
Right. See?
Right, because what Jay has done with this 444 album, exclusively on, like you said, Sprint Tidal, so I'm going to go ahead and guess this is a timed exclusive. I'm pretty sure.
It's on Apple Music now.
It is now? Okay.
I just because I was checking every day. Yes, okay. I was.
Yeah, because it took a while. It took a while for it to be on YouTube too. Now it's on the video. The story of OJ was getting removed from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, because the timed rights.
Right, and so it couldn't be up there. But the whole thing is, I heard the album, I saw it, but I won't say how, but because I don't have Tidal. But
yeah, I heard it from a friend.
Yeah, okay. No, and it wasn't illegal. I have a friend who has Tidal. I went over and sat with them, right? And so I went and listened. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't illegal, so we don't roll like that. And so basically, but me. We've talked. I like Jay. Even with the scrutiny. I always liked things about Jay because I liked Jay from the beginning. And I always liked his ear for production, the beats he chose to rap on, and it's always serves a purpose, even if you don't understand it. And I think the hardest thing for me is when the Nas Jay thing happened, because I love Nas that much. I cut school to get Illmatic. I remember I finally told my mother I cut school to get that album. She's like, "What?"
Well, so I said off air, and this is gonna match up to what we're talking about. Okay, so I said off air when the story of OJ video premiered that day. I said it's interesting how Jay-Z once dissed Nas for trying to kick knowledge, but on the story of OJ, there's definitely some knowledge being spoken on this track. This shows the growth of Jay-Z's music. I'm kind of paraphrasing what I said. This was not to criticize Jay. I was saying that, and I know that was in the heat of battle at the time. They're friends now, so that's fine. But I was saying that to say that the very things that Jay-Z made cool, he spoke against. He realized it wasn't cool, that it was ignorant. This is the growth of Jay. Now, I'm not saying that. I think the reason why this is getting so much attention, not because of what he's talking about, it's because it's coming from Jay-Z's mouth. We've had plenty of artists way before Jay say the things that they're saying on this record, that Jay is saying on this record, but it's because it's coming from Jay-Z.
That's what it makes a big difference.
But what happens is, it's when your artist grows up and then your artist becomes grown man music. This is Jay becoming grown man music.
Yes.
Hip hop is, and this is refreshing to me. Hip hop, like with LL's album a few years back, that Authentic, hip hop is becoming grown man's music. And you have the kids hip hop that they get to have their hip hop. But us who are older, now we're getting the grown man music version of hip hop, like, the Shy Lights. The Spinners.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
Yeah.
That's becoming. So we're getting our grown man music in hip hop now.
So the trap music is more like kid music now, right?
But kid music is like that. You talk about flossing because when Ella was talking about I'm bad, we loved it and our parents didn't.
Right.
Exactly.
No, real talk.
No, it's true. It's true.
But when you talk about Authentic, I'm a grown man. Forget your swag, him snooping, on Authentic. That junk is fire to me because this is where I am now. That's like when Nas has the album with his daughter's dress in his arm. This is what I'm speaking because this is where I'm living now.
Yeah. Are you talking about Nas's Life is Good album?
Right.
Yeah.
Because in Illmatic, that's where we were.
That's true.
As kids, that's where we were.
That's true.
And so I can't fault some. I loved it because it's like, okay, this is where you are now.
Wait. Let's rewind. You just spoke up something. I don't know if you mean to, but it came out this way. That's an interesting parallel thought. Cinema, you just said Illmatic was where he was. Life is Good is where he's now. Life is Good came out a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So, same thing. Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt was where he was. 444 is where he is now. Yeah. So is it safe to say that 444 is basically Jay-Z's Life is Good version of an album?
Right, because if you're going to mature and if you're going to make an honest album, he doesn't live in Marcy no more.
A long time ago.
See, he's dealing with like how he had to rebuild his marriage and what he's talking about. I had to get rid of that mentality to keep my family.
Right.
It's basically, if you want to be honest, it's the follow up to Lemonade. It gives you his side of the story of Lemonade.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what a lot of people are saying. This is basically his response to Beyonce's Lemonade album. But let's talk about the content that is in the song Story of OJ that makes sense with what we're saying.
Right.
Right. So Jay-Z said in the song, y'all still taking advances, huh? Me and my taking real chances.
Right.
He's talking about,
exactly.
He's talking about the industry.
Exactly, because when you take an advance, you owe that advance back.
Yes.
And so you're in
Mm-hmm.
slavery. He took a chance with Rock Nation. He took a chance with Tidal.
Slavery.
Right. I took a chance with Tidal. Y'all laughed. I took a chance leaving the Def Jam thing with Rock Nation. Yeah, that's not gonna. Yeah, exactly.
I'm waiting for the day he buys all of the percentage of Tidal though, because he doesn't own the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I'm waiting for that day where he just buys the whole thing out.
But the whole thing is, you got to go. It's like Big Three. You got to go in with the backer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what? Always wondered why. I don't know. Maybe this is just my thinking, because I think from a community standpoint, I'm not knocking Jay-Z for buying a percentage of Tidal. I think what Jay-Z did is he wanted to buy something of an infrastructure that was already operating, as opposed to building something from the ground up.
Right.
But I think it would have been more of an intelligent move if you just mentioned Cube, right? Imagine if Jay, Cube, Dre, and anybody else that we could think of all came together and said, no, we're going to start a music streaming service from the ground up. Now imagine if they all came together and did that.
See, yeah, but there's too many variables with text and stuff. So
right,
that's probably why if you got the infrastructure in place, it's a lot. It's a lot. It depends on how much money investment is. How much time do I want to spend on it hands on,
right?
And how do I want to use it,
right?
Let's say, I wouldn't want to run a sandwich store because, you wouldn't want sandwiches by me. But if this dude's making a fire sandwich, okay,
I'm paying him.
I'll invest in it because he'll keep it running. Right. That might not be an interest to him, but I know the label he's hands on.
Right.
So he can't add another thing that he's using as a media outlet and take his attention away from Rock Nation.
Right.
So those things come into play too when you start talking about that in business decisions. How much of this can I really manage?
Yeah.
Right. Jay talked about ownership and the story of OJ. I mean, he also talked about basically the control that people have. I mean, from a black community standpoint, I mean, he starts out with the song quoting OJ when he said during the trial, I've never heard Jay be this so blunt in a song like this, where your verse is, I'm not black, I'm OJ.
Okay.
Well, okay. You know what I'm saying? And I've never heard Jay, I mean, the sample, my skin is black, my skin is black. Like the sample.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, like, is this really a Jay record? Because it don't sound like it sounds more like a Nas record.
Yeah.
And if we heard a song like this from Nas, that's normal because Nas started been conscious. But the point I'm making is coming from Jay.
Because even it made you look. If you were really listening, you would hear stuff.
Yeah.
Shoot. I made you look. You're a slave in the page in my rhyme book.
And it's, but the whole thing is you grow up.
Exactly.
And maybe, he's going in the Songwriting Hall of Fame. Nas is at Harvard.
Yeah.
There's some things we may never be privy to. But, that relationship is back the way it was.
Right.
And so he could be, how someone rubs off on you when you hang out with them and you're starting to see, maybe I was a little too hard on you about that.
Yeah.
Maybe you did have something there because, and it's mature. See, that's what you want to hear from an artist.
Yes,
that's what I enjoy. You want to hear maturity and the change. Like if I make another album after I made an album and I'm in the same place, there's something missing.
You haven't grown. That's what that means.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what Justin Timberlake made a banging album, the second album, and left for 10 years because he had to grow. And then when he came back, you're like, yeah, exactly. And so that's what happens. Jay had to walk away for a while because, you know, I'm doing this. I have to grow. And now you get, you know, people are mad. Well, I said, you know, and I was in comments. I don't even remember what site, or even if it was Facebook. And I'm like, this is evolution. And I said, it was always some of this in Jay's stuff, but only to a certain point.
That's true.
I said it was always present if you really listen to him.
Yeah, yes.
But
that's true.
But
there were some bits and pieces. Yeah.
But back in the day, he thought I can change it. But then now he's starting to realize, we got to do for our own. Because I thought I could change it. I got up in there and they, you know, slam, you know?
Yeah, and you see that same growth in his wife.
Right. Exactly.
That says something too. I mean, Beyonce years ago. Beyonce. So this is, you know, they're revealing what's been going on in their household, the growth, the thing, what brought them back together strong. Right.
And you know, and you know, and you see the growth. You know, because it happens. Because you change over the years. You know, your marriage isn't how it is when you first get married. Your relationship with your friends aren't the same.
No,
it grows.
It grows.
And so
he has a song called. Have you heard that song "Family Feud"?
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard. Was it on?
So
is it on YouTube?
That song. Well, I don't know if it is, but that's off of Jay's album.
Yeah.
I mentioned that because he just said Cinema, you just talking about what's going on at home, personal things with Jay and stuff like that. On the song title 444 and then Family Feud after that, kind of go into what you're talking about.
Right, and so does Kill Jay-Z.
Right. Yeah, that's how the album starts. Yeah, the first song is called Kill Jay-Z.
I was like, that's a song a Christian rapper could have made.
Yeah.
But as far as the concept?
Yeah, as far as the concept, exactly.
I gotta go on YouTube and hear that song.
You notice?
It's and so number one, he introduces it and he says, he told you on the first track, when I'm killing me, don't expect what you normally get from me on this album.
Right.
And he said, I'm calling people out who did what I did. I'm just letting you know what I did by doing all these metaphors, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know, it's like what hip hop was. The poetry is back, and I'm like the lyricism, and that's growth. He's always been a poet, you know.
Right. This is the first time I've heard a Jay-Z album without any without him trying to intentionally make a radio friendly song.
Right.
This is the first time I've heard an album from him. I have to be specific to him because we've heard this from many other artists. Right. But from him, this is why this is getting so much media attention.
Because you don't have a rock boys, you don't have a show me what you got.
No, you ain't got a big pimpin'.
And those are hot songs, and I love those songs. but the point we're making is these were radio friendly kind of records that he made.
Right.
So,
you know, and so on this album, he does not have that. That's like 50 Cent coming out with a conscious album right now. You know how much attention that would get?
Yo, is this song called Window Shopping Conscious? I don't know. Oh.
No, Window Shop is not conscious at all.
Okay.
But the point I'm making But the point I'm making is that's like 50 and 50 clowned this album, by the way. Mm-hmm. But that's like 50 all of a sudden saying, you know what? I'm going to do a song dedicated to Trayvon Martin. Or I'm going to do a song talking about Philando Castile. Can you imagine if 50 Cent decided that he was going to do a conscious song?
But
not an album, just a song.
Yo, I know. J. Cole conscious?
But
no,
J. Cole you got to understand it. Yeah, J. Cole is definitely, I love him. That's my dude. Yeah. J. Cole is I love J. Cole. But, you know, the whole thing is, this album was a follow-up to Lemonade. Yeah. He said it when he was making it. Mm-hmm. So I expected something different because Lemonade is raw. And it's like, you know, I bought Freedom and then I'm like, let me give the rest of this album a chance. And I'm like, okay. Then I started hearing stuff. because I really didn't listen to it straight away the first time, you know? And so if the subject matter that's on Lemonade is how it is, it has to be like this if it's an answer, because basically that Lemonade was Beyonce's evolution through these circumstances. And so Jay had to choose whether I wanted to be honest from the door or not. He could have been playful, Jay, like, I'll tell you, but he's like, nah, we're just going to strip this down. And whether you're ready for it or not, you know, this is just it.
Yeah.
You know, and so it basically, what his wife put out there moved him, because he was dealing with a lot of questions, you know, and you don't know how much retrospect, and it takes a lot for you to look at yourself sometimes and be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he started pulling back the layers, we don't know if there were other songs already done. And then he was like, nah, we're doing this, you know?
Yeah.
And so we, you know, that's why I hope he puts a making of it on there. Like beyond, they have the mini documentary, which I got to watch, but I would love to see a making of.
Well, this is definitely a jump from his album before that, Magna Carta, Holy Grail.
Right.
So it's definitely a difference, and it's been what, over 4 to 5 years since we've had an album from Jay, right?
Right. So that's enough time to change.
That's enough
as a
time,
person.
exactly. And we've seen him change on a business side. We've seen him with the Brooklyn Nets. We've seen him with Tidal. We've seen, you know, what he's been doing with with Beyonce and vice versa. So you know, his children, you know, his daughter to his twins now. Yeah. So we've seen a lot of things non-music from Jay. So this is basically everything that man has been holding in. And a lot of people said before Jay released his album, do we really need an album from Jay? After Jay dropping this album, he brought me back. Let me just say something. I got to keep it real. I never was a die-hard Jay-Z fan. This is what I mean by die-hard Jay-Z fan.
That's the truth. That's the truth, though.
Right. Die-hard meaning, you know, from start to finish. I've never been a start to finish guy with Jay.
Yeah.
I personally own his earlier albums. I do not own some of the albums that he did in between the time from after
his marriage with Beyonce.
Around the time of the Black Album. I don't own all of those other ones. I own the earlier ones. You know, Hard Knock Life, and Life and Times of Sean Carter, Volume 3 and down. Okay, so I'm that kind of fan of his, right?
Right.
Because for a while I stepped away from him because I was like, all right, man, this is getting boring. No disrespect to Jay. I'm just keeping it real musically.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I like Jay, but now I'm starting to like Jay from a distance.
Right.
444 brought me back to how I felt about Jay when I was growing up to Jay. That's why I was like, whoa. Like I don't have a complete observation of the album review because I haven't heard the whole album. But from what I've heard so far, this is the Jay-Z I like. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I would
But then again, me and my family were having that discussion. It's like, you know, if you've heard his whole thing, you know, something like this was inevitable eventually.
Right.
You know, it you know, because he said it in all the commercial albums. I've done myself down. He was telling you he was doing this just to be successful. I done myself, you know, he said it in songs.
Right.
It's documented. So, you know, you knew what he was doing if you were like a fan, but, you know, some people just can't mess with that, which I understand.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But see, me being a pop music head, I don't care.
Right.
So it's all fine, you know, like when LL did Type of Guy, okay, that's fine. Okay. You know, the hood was gonna burn him for that song, but
that type of, you know, that's also
yeah, but it's still pop. in a time where that wasn't even relevant yet.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So we're gonna have to wrap.
He got booed in Queens over that.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're gonna leave that alone. We know
we're not talking about that.
There's video footage of that, so we're gonna. All right, so
he talks about it on his own documentary video.
No, that's true. That's where and another thing I saw where that happened to him. It was a Public Enemy concert as well.
And he did a
couple other artists. Yeah, no. He got booed as soon as he. Okay, let's get this over with. As soon as he walked on the stage, man. Boo! To the point where Flavor Flav had to say something.
Wow. I remember going to a concert back in the day. I have to mention this.
Oh, he made it up, though.
No, he made it up.
That next album was... Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's the event you're talking about. Public Enemy was performing at that concert. LL Cool J was there, and they booed that man to their neck pop.
Yo, make it real quick. I remember going to a concert with me and my brother back in my Madison Square Garden when we seen the leaders of the New School and Organized Confusion and Tribe Called Quest, Tribe Called Quest when they did Scenario. Here we go, yo. Everybody was jumping on the stage and we did Scenario and they had like and they had Will Smith was supposed to show up, but everybody clapping. Will Smith didn't show up. It was like, yay!
Cinema, you know about that one.
Yeah, they clapped. They hollered when Smith. This is back in the early, this is like '93. They were clapping when Will Smith didn't show up in Madison Square Garden. They was like, yeah, they were sharing.
Cinema, you know exactly about this one.
I guess they wanted to hear most of the East Coast. They wanted to hear that boom bop.
Yeah.
They want
and that led to him the Apollo incident where he turned the mic out. The crowd was sipping. They tried to clap and they dropped the mics and walked off the stage. And I said, right, because I was a Will Smith fan. Because basically everything don't have to be hardcore. That's always been my mentality.
Right. They were.
But that's how New York was. That's why people, when New York hip hop stopped running stuff, people were doing it on purpose because our crowds are insufferable.
Yeah, they shared when he didn't show up.
Yeah.
So we got to wrap this up. It's been a 2-hour episode.
Okay.
So, all right. So I don't really have a final thought per se, but I'll be very brief with what I got to say. I'm actually going to go first this time.
Okay.
All right. So this is what I want to say. So going independent, we talked about going independent. We talked about major labels and stuff like that, benefits, pros and cons. If there isn't in your lane a label, an ideal label that you would want to sign with, then you have to create it. Like I said earlier, my dream label would be a label that has major label money, but an independent mindset. I feel that is the best of both worlds. I remember the days when I was trying to be a part of a major. I mean, to the point where I was, just putting music and sending it and mailing it, doing the old school way. You know what I mean? And being very disappointed in my skills because I thought my skills wasn't enough to get a deal. But then I started to see artists who sucked who got deals, so that wasn't the problem. So... But I just want to say to people out there, before you sign any contract with anybody, or before you even start your own thing independently, know the business, get some legal representation.
Mm-hmm.
Legal representation meaning a lawyer, even if you're independent. Try to network with people who are if they've had some experience with the industry or not, whatever, anything that you could take from them, be a sponge that just absorbs knowledge, information, and experience, and know what you're doing before you get in there. Also, if you sign a major label, is there anything that you could live with that you have to give up. If you can live with that, that's your business. If you can't live with that, that lets you know that that's something you don't need to be doing. Mm-hmm. Okay? So then that's when you need to create your own lane. All right? My personal experience is that I wanted to have creative control. I classify myself as a Renaissance man when it comes to content. I like to do it all. So in order for me to do that, I have to be independent. Because I can't have some label telling me what to do and what not to do. You know? Success, to me, is not success if you've had to compromise for it, if you've had to give up who you are. I got to be able to sleep at night. That's just me. Mm-hmm. So that's my advice to anybody out there seeking any representation. Zaccheus, I'm going to let you go second, and Cinema, I'll let you finish off.
Okay.
I like this episode. I love all the episodes, but this one was important because I'm sure it educated a lot of people trying to if you're trying to get into the music business or you're just trying to record music. These are things that we should take in. All our testimonies are real. These are things that you should take into consideration because you can spend a lot of money and you have to have the love for it because you can spend a lot of money and blow it. But this is where the research comes in. Before you get into any studio, before you get into any recording, make sure that you do your homework. Make sure that you find out the pricing. Make sure you find out anything. But the best advice is to learn it yourself. Get your own equipment. If you have to go to school for it, the school that Cinema went to, go to that school. The recording school, learn recording, Pro Tools, all the tools you need to learn. You can go and you can just do it yourself. That's the best way to do it, because you can you can go bankrupt and can blow a lot of money if you don't know how to, you don't know the tools how to do it. And if you go into the studio after studio, of course they're going to charge you because of their time and your time. They're going to charge you for the time, but the best way to do it is to learn it yourself and to do it yourself. Independence is the best way. It's the best way. I'm not saying taking away from the majors, but the best way is to be independent and to go to groundwork. You appreciate more, and you don't have to deal with people telling you exactly what to do and how to do it and how to look and how to sound and how to walk. That's tough. And sometimes you do have to sell your soul you do have to do certain things in order to jump into a major. It's not as easy and not as you want to be rich and famous, but there's a price to pay with that. So that's my advice.
Cinema.
Okay. I wanted to do something a little different, but not going to take too long.
Take your time.
I wanted to acknowledge a label that, like, in Christian music, as far as rock and hip hop, started a lot of things. It's known as Broken Records. It was later operated as Brainstorm Artists International, BAI. And Gene Eugene was a major force in that, who passed on. Like Soup and Peace has a dedication. Like Soup the Chemist has a book about his story through his, what's it called? Oh, let me pull it up. It's called Soup the Chemist Through My Windows: The History Behind Holy Hip Hop. It's like his experience on how he grew up, and this was one of the labels he mentioned. It's like the information's between pages 56 and 58. It's I recommend you read that. I need to reread that again. A lot of rock bands came out, but also SFC, JC and the Boys, while Brainstorm, some of the things were Dynamic Twins, and a lot of Christian rock bands, and a lot of the movement that is like stagnant now was done by a lot of underground independent artists. And everyone always asks, what's the difference between then and now? These labels aren't around. These albums are available now digitally again, but as far as venues and labeling, depending on what genre, whether you want to do mainstream, gospel, reggae, you know, if you're looking at a label, research some of these old labels, find out what worked, find out what didn't. Because a lot of times you can learn from different people's things. This is a label that basically we found because basically it was distributed by Maranatha Music, which is you know, back in the days, a praise and worship company. And they really, you know, they were the parent company of this label. And we don't see that investment anymore. You know, if you look on that side of CCM music and gospel hip hop, you know, Tunnel Rats had a release on this label. And now they're independent. You need, you know, check it out, get some information. Cause I decided I didn't want to be a label. I'd rather do production if somebody has a label. But if you want to do a label, if you want to do production, do your research. Get some things. There's a DVD I have about the history of Atlantic Records. Very good. There's a lot of resources to watch. In fact, right here in my studio, I have all that, concerts, resources, and books. It's you know, you want to learn the business, learn to read. There's probably a new book version of this, but there's a book called Sound Advice I have over here. That's an older one. I have a guide to music publishing. Find out how to make money in this business. Find out how to be a successful label. If you want to be a publisher, find out what it takes to do that. If you want to be an independent artist, go, you know, study Chance. Study all the people we talked about.
Lecrae.
Lecrae is great, you know, because it's all about what you want to do, you know. Between us, we've decided there's certain things we won't do because I got to sleep at night, because there's stuff I did that didn't help me sleep at night back in the ghost days. And, you know, it's what you can live with. But you have to, you know, I wanted to shout them out and just, you know, tell you about the information that's out there, because it's very important. Because if you want to work for people, because you can be an independent and work for majors and production and do stuff and work with major artists, you know, diversify your money. I tell you that much, like Tyrese did and a lot of other people do. The more things you got going and the more diversified your money is, if you're getting money from songs and writing, it'll help you attain what you need to do. And, you know, I had a friend, he went up to a major producer and he asked him, what happens when you get a record deal? And then he asked him, do you have a job? You may have to work while you do that. Because if you sign, 3 to 5 years before the money for the album comes back through retail and everything. And then some independent places, you don't get an advance, and you got to survive, and you got to find ways to tour, and you got to be creative. You do. And then, especially, I want to mention this. Get your show straight. Practice, you know, open mics are good for practice, but if you see people aren't responding, watch stuff. That's why I own concerts. I own things. I watch people. I watch appearances. I watch the award shows, because you want to see what works and what doesn't. And then you try it. If it doesn't work, you don't have to do it again. But, you know, learn. Robbie Williams, rock star, you know, some of y'all, you know, might know what he is. If you're younger, he doesn't really drop his music in the States no more. He says he just does, you know, it's a big show for him. He just does a lot of things to make the crowd react. But it's a very entertaining show. So, but if that's not you, just take something of that's in your personality and put it together to make it work for you. Basically, if you rock a live show, De La Soul had lost their their contract was over. And their label was there looking at other people and saw them rocking the Stakes is High material. And they got re-signed. They're independent now. They're still rocking shows overseas and stuff when you see them. Wow, I just saw a picture with Pasta News, Usher, The Roots overseas, chilling.
Interesting picture. Usher in there.
And then they were around Grace Jones.
What?
It's on Questlove's IG. I love Questlove's IG. It's the most entertaining thing in my life. But you know, and shout out to Stro Elliott. That's another IG I love because they're traveling together, so you get to see things from both sides and multiple perspectives. And so, but you know, you're grinding. If you're on the road, even if you can't find a following in America, if you find a following overseas, that's enough to go over there, tour. You know, even if you have to work, you bring home more money when you switch it over here anyway. So those are just things I want, you know, because Broken Records, Brainstorm, Soup in them, that's what inspired me. That was my fuel. SFC is one of the main reasons I started. Soup is one of the reasons I started rapping. Period, hands down. So I wanted to give them a shout out, and you know, rest in peace to Gene Eugene. You know, because oh man, if you hear anything this man Gene Eugene's engineered, it's beautiful. As an engineer, it's just awesome.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna get up out of here. Cinema, where can they reach you?
Cinemascapes at Cinema and SCAPES, and that's at Twitter, IG, and I have a page on Facebook. Or if you have IG, you reach me at my government, Shamik Jones, SHAMIK Jones. I have an IG for my name because I do. Not only do I rap and do gaming under Cinemascapes, I do music under Shamik Jones as well.
All right. Zaccheus, where can they reach you?
You can reach me on Instagram at Zaccheus B73. Also, you can reach me on Facebook, Wayne Bacchus, WayneBacchus. Also, you can reach me on Facebook on Wayne Bacchus too as well. You could go. Also, my book is out, Barnes and Noble, A Bad Man, a Thug, and a Gangster. It's a nice read over the summer, so you know, go check that out.
Exactly.
You know, you can get that book right there, and Amazon is all over right now. Google Play, it's ebooks. It's available now, so go get it if you get a chance to.
That's what's up. Support that.
Yeah.
You can reach me at The Fifth General, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Fifth General. All right. So we're going to get up out of here. I'd like to thank everybody for listening. Like to give a special shout out once again to Prodigy's family because of the episode we did last time.
Yes.
Just want to acknowledge that one more time. And thank you guys for listening. That's been our last episode has been our most listened to episode since we've launched.
Yes.
So shout outs to everybody who've heard episode 3.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to get out of here. This is the Fifth General signing off.
This is Zaccheus.
And Cinemascapes.
All right. We'll see y'all next time, all right?
All right. Peace.
Peace.